Welcome to the illustrious Morgan State University. My name is Vaughn Mason, and I currently serve as the Interim Vice President for the Institute of Industrial Engineers here at Morgan State University. Our chapter recently attended the IIE Mid-Atlantic Regional Conference, and we would like to provide a recap. The conference began on Friday with dinner and a speaker. The speaker was Marcy Jackson, who is the Director of Enterprise Information Management at Premium Healthcare Alliance, and she spoke on the challenges of healthcare reform and emerging need for the industrial engineer. It was exciting to hear the growing number of opportunities for IEs in healthcare and what exactly is creating these opportunities. Things got started on Saturday with some breakout sessions that included Mike Carr speaking on accelerating achievement, Drew Harnish speaking on professional pre-flight plan, getting your career from launch pad into stable orbit. Patrick Foxworthy and Yatavia Harris gave a presentation on the IIE Future Beyond Graduation, and there was also a panel of WVU alumni that led the discussion on paths to success beyond graduation that consisted of Annie Monroe, Aaron Reardon, and Johnny Shields. Here are some of what these speakers had to say.
So I think we've shown, right, that anything that you can think of now that exists that you're getting in your IE membership still exists when you graduate. Again, it's $72 the first year after you graduate. The retention aspect, and I think being involved, is very important. I wouldn't be here advocating and as involved as I am with the young professionals if I didn't think it was important. The first 2 years after you graduate, I know that I was definitely in flux as far as both knowing what I wanted to do when I grew up, figuring out how to get there, and trying to balance a 40-hour work week at the same time, all of which can be very stressful and very trying. It's part of the reason that you get a much bigger paycheck, I think. So to go along with that, having the resources at IIE available to me through my network, through maintaining my learning, through conferences, through remembering that my job title, even though it wasn't an industrial engineering job title, was that of an industrial engineer, and seeing that in the magazine every month when it showed up at my door, all of those things helped me get through my first 2 years out of school.
And I think, the stuff that they teach you here, it almost becomes like a way of thinking, and more than it is just like a toolbox of skills that they give you, and stuff that seems, brilliant from other people. You're thinking, well, that's pretty common sense, type of thing. So for me, it just came pretty naturally, and I feel like it has for a lot of our colleagues.
Show that you have a good work ethic. Have integrity. Don't compromise your moral compass or your values for anything. And be willing to learn and be willing to volunteer. Don't be afraid to ask the question. The human capital piece is the biggest piece that's out there. I mean, all of the knowledge within every company doesn't reside within the patents or within the process. If all the people leave, the process is no good. And if all the people leave, the patents become invaluable. So everything that you can learn from the people that you're with. Spend time with them. Ask them, sit down with, at lunch with them. Go in their office before or after hours. Just use that time, like Andy said, to become a sponge and just take in as much as you can. It'll make the transition a lot easier.
Following these speakers were the undergraduate technical paper presentations. Emily Faith Calhoun from WVU presented her project on excess material reduction at Special Metals Incorporated, and Katie Bassinger from NCSU presented the economics of creating regenerative skin for trauma treatment. Here is a glimpse into some of their presentations.
So like I said, we did do some additional improvements. I said I would come back to this. When we created a user manual, we put in there not only like directions and how to go about running the system in case they had any questions that we used for training, but also like order of operations, who had what job and what that required you to do so that they didn't have any confusion on, oh, well, who was supposed to put in the red flag or who was supposed to create this.
So I'm just going to give you a quick overview of what it looks like when the operator opens the program. So this comes up, and it's split again into these 5 steps that I spoke about earlier in the slideshow. And each step has materials, labor, and resources. The materials form looks something like this. It comes up, you choose your materials, you have to choose how much to order, you can calculate, reset, and then once you return to the main menu, a message box will pop up to make sure that you've ordered the correct materials.
Following the technical paper presentations, we loaded up the buses and headed over to Swanson Industries for a tour of their facilities. The plant tour started with a basic introduction to Swanson and the facility, and then we broke into smaller groups for individual tour guides. The people at Swanson did an amazing job at informing us about the manufacturing processes that happen within the plant, specifically pointing out applications of industrial engineering. It was pretty cool to see the things that we have only learned about in textbooks, really in action. One specific project, they were working on building a mezzanine in between 2 milling machines, and that would reduce travel time. So that was pretty cool to see. After the plant tour wrapped up, we headed back to Hotel Morgan for the Saturday evening banquet. The keynote speaker was Don Taylor, the department head of industrial and systems engineering at Virginia Tech University, and he is also a member of the IIE Board of Trustees and the IIE past president. The title of his presentation, Professional Leadership, IIE and You. His presentation gave great historical perspective. Here is some of what he had to say.
And then talk maybe a little bit about some of the grand challenges that we face and how we as industrial engineers might help to solve those. So let's talk about management versus leadership. And I guess I struggle with the difference in those two terms. But and the bottom line is I looked them up. And management can be defined as the act of handling or directing with a degree of skill. And I looked up leadership and said it can be defined as having charge of some operation, activity, or performance. And I looked at those two definitions and I realized I still didn't know the difference because those are still fairly similar things, right? So I think that the bottom line for me is that management is something that can be assigned, but leadership is something that has to be earned.
Following this, the IIE WVU chapter president and MC for the weekend presented the award of $500 to the winner of the technical paper competition, Emily Faith Calhoun. The competition was judged by guest speakers Patrick Foxworthy, Yatavia Harris, Drew Harnish, and the Mid-Atlantic RVP, Joyce Hadley.
And I would like to present our first place winner of the technical paper competition to Emily Faith Calhoun. She will receive a check of $500, so if you need it tonight, she's your girl.
The conference was an absolutely amazing opportunity for all who attended. We all were allowed to network, grow their knowledge of the industrial engineering profession, and improve our leadership, communication, and professional skills. We would like to say thank you because we know the officers, the faculty, and the volunteers put in a lot of effort to host a successful conference, and it was successful. We are looking forward to next year's at Virginia Tech.